award.
Okay.
So, have we got any nominations?
Yeah. I tell you what, I'm happy to nominate Steve for a change.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because I was going to nominate you, dear boy. And my reasoning, much as I'd love to chair, this is my first meeting of the Harbour Committee.
Oh, okay.
And I don't think it's a good time to chair it.
But
for you,
unless you've got other volunteers, I'll accept that. Just don't expect me to do a wonderful job. I'm far better face to face than on TV screens, I'm afraid.
Well, I'm happy to agree to you being chair, and I'm sure you will do a good job, Stuart.
Absolutely. We have much more faith in you than you do yourself.
Everyone happy for Stuart to take the chair?
Agreed.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
I'll support that. John here. I'll support it. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for that misplaced confidence. Okay. Quickly then, is everyone happy with the minutes of the last meeting held on the 18th of December, which is paper A? And if you are, can you simply put a thumbs up so that we can see that, and therefore Sarah, who's taking the notes, will be able to count the number of thumbs. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Do any members have an interest they wish to declare on any of the matters on the agenda, pecuniary or otherwise? No. I take silences as that there are no matters of interest. Do we have any notified, because this is a virtual meeting, obviously we don't have oral questions, and so any questions will be those sent in writing or by electronic mail. So Sarah or Mari, do we have any notified questions?
I haven't had any, no, Chair.
Oh, great. So that's no questions. Excellent. We'll probably get through by 2:30 at this rate, Andrew. Okay. The next item is we're looking at the Harbour Committee terms of reference, which we had adjusted and are set out on paper B. Now, here I think, if I'm right, that it is our recommendation, if we agree to the terms of reference, it's a recommendation from us to the next full council meeting, which will be in September, that the terms of reference are as set out in paper B. As far as I'm aware, the only change, correct me please, Democratic Services, if I'm wrong, or any of our officers. As far as I'm aware, the only change is now not just Newport Harbour Committee, but it covers all three of the harbours. So that will be Ryde, Marina and Ventnor Haven as well. Are there any other changes that we need to comment on, or do members have any issues? All quiet? No.
Chair.
Yep.
I was just wondering about its references. I'm sure we changed the references to the numbers of elected members. It's referring to 5 elected members.
But then there's +2, isn't it, as well?
But
depends how you read it, I think.
My recollection was that it was actually formally a larger number rather than by co-option. But so I wondered if this was kind of a draft still of.
I don't know the answer to that, Andrew. I know that it gives us the ability to have up to 7, and I'm looking at the names on the last on the invite to this, we did have 7 invited. Councillor Brodie, Councillor Hastings, Councillor Hobart, Councillor Garrett, Councillor Price, Councillor Smart, Councillor Ward, and actually myself. So that was 8. So I think the intention was that we had up to 7 members invited. Does everybody else read it the same way?
Yeah.
Because who then are the co-opted members?
They're just looking at it. We've got 3 who are there by virtue, whoever their names are. There are 3 who are there by virtue of the office they hold, which is Resources, Infrastructure and Transport, Environment and Heritage. We can co-opt 2 further ones as and when required. And somewhere I have read there were 2 others. We need to make that clearer, do you think, folks? What was the intention of the committee? To have a total capacity of up to 7, in case we lost one.
Yeah, my recollection, Chair, was that we had actually discussed and it's kind of set it as that, but I haven't got the constitution in front. The thing is, of course, is Harbour's committee does count towards the proportionality of the council, so we need to be absolutely clear as to whether or not it does have seven members, because it's these things come out in the decimal points of rounding in terms of who's
Yeah, I'm aware.
But
right.
Maybe it's something we can clarify kind of outside of the meeting.
Yeah, we could clarify that with Jeff outside of the meeting. I think it was certainly set up to be proportionate. I think from memory, when it was first set up, we had a number of people that declined, which caused us a problem, I think, with the proportionality. But I think it may have been Jeff actually at one stage. I can't quite remember who it was, but there was a number of people that declined from being part of the Harbour committee.
Yeah.
So, but we can take that away. We can take that away and clarify that.
Yeah. Thank you, Alex. That would be glad if you would. I think, given that, I mean, when we had an audit committee which had only 5 members, I recall having some difficulties because a quorum was 3, and on occasions we were actually waiting for someone to arrive so that we could be quorate. I think if we have 7 members, then even if we have 1 or 2 apologies, then we are probably on safer ground. So if members on the committee are happy with that total, and could we then clarify it, Alex, please, along those lines with Jeff Wild?
Yeah, we will do.
Other than that point, thank you for that point, Andrew. Well made. Other than that point, are we happy to accept the constitution as set out for recommendation to full council? Do we need to take a vote on this one, Murray?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so if we can sort of thumbs up again in the same way, we can, not too many thumbs to count.
Stuart, you'll have to put yours higher because I can only see the top of your head.
Oh, okay. I can't.
With the roll calls that people know who's voting for and against, please.
Hold on. Is that better? Can you see me now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I'll hold my thumb up high.
Was there anybody not in favour of that? No.
No. Okay, that's good. Thank you. Right, that's terms of reference. That allows us to move to the next item, which is, and I found it. Our finance report, which is paper C. I think this is just purely a matter for information for us, is it not? And the next finance report following these changes will also include Ventnor and Ride. That I can
That's
see.
correct. That's correct,
see
Stuart.
nodding there, Alex. Yeah.
Yes.
So clearly, I mean, it's a short report, factual information. Has anyone got any comments they wish to make about the report, either its content or its set out layout? I'm happy with it. I have to say, at the moment, I've got much bigger financial worries than this one. Any comment from any members about the
I
content
tend to agree with you,
report?
Stuart. There are bigger things to worry about, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
Stuart, it might just be worth letting members know. Obviously, this is your kind of first opportunity to look at the end of year reports for Newport.
Right.
David Foster will know we have to prepare an annual statement for our statutory harbours anyway, which has to be audited by our auditors, Ernst & Young. We will be bringing a version of that paper back to this committee before it's published. So you're going to get an opportunity to look at the accounts for Newport and Ventnor a little bit later in the year. They get put out to public consultation around about July time. And once that consultation is closed, we can then bring it back with any comments to this group. So we'll get a second chance to look at these anyway.
Okay, well, that's always good. So has anyone got any comments on that, or do we simply this is simply for noting then at this stage?
It is.
It is. So I would move that we take the report and note it, and understand that obviously the final report, including the other harbours, will be presented to us at presumably the next meeting, Alex.
It will be the next meeting, yes.
Okay. Are members all content with that? Any other observations? No. Okay. Thank you for that. So that's the finance report. Now we move on to the reports of the Harbour Master. Two elements there. We have the Get Well plan and the progress, which is paper D. So if we take that one first, who is going to take us through that one? Is that for Jonathan?
Yeah, shall I? Good afternoon all. For paper, for the Get Well plan, we've been sort of moving through that quite nicely. We've got this sort of emergency plan has been updated. We've got to send it to COWS for just their input, but other than that, it's sort of near enough ready to be issued, which is good. A lot of the other stuff at the top, which is sort of all tied into the new Harbour revision order, is kind of, we can't do much on that until that moves forwards. But other than that, we're moving through it quite nicely. We've added some things to the Harbour pages, which include the new safety management manuals. So in general, we're sort of moving through them quite nicely.
Okay. Do we have any, and I'm sure someone's going to mention COVID-19 at this point, do we have any update on the MMO and the Harbour revision order? We have been waiting now for, oh God, 2 years, I think.
Yes, yes, Stuart. I've got an update on the agenda today, which I can pick up later. There is some movement, which is encouraging. I'll outline it. I'll outline it in a bit.
Okay. So do members have comments on the Get Well plan? Obviously, in these difficult conditions, it's still moving forward. I'm looking at David now, just in case he wants to make any comment on how we're progressing. I think the plan is largely laid out on your advice anyway, David.
Yeah, yes, the Get Well plan, it's encouraging. We're almost there on all the things that you can do without getting that Harbour revision order in place, and then the subsequent things like getting general directions, writing them all, etc., etc. We're going to hear all about the latest update about how we're doing with general directions, but one of the big ticket items was getting an emergency plan out, and I was going through that with Jonathan yesterday, and you've now got what I call a decent working draft, which is based on the cows one, and really got to wave it in front of cows to make sure that they're happy with it, and it should therefore join up nicely with the cows one. So hopefully they'll be happy with that. They'll be content with the way the two merge together, and that's about the last of the bigger items we've got sitting there waiting to do. You are being given a most extraordinary runaround by your objectors and the MMO and the Department for Justice. Certainly you take, I see these going through all over the place, and I must admit you are having the roughest ride I've seen.
Oh dear. Right, okay. Well, I'm glad it's any lack of progress is down to somebody else rather than us.
No, I think that there were some unusual objections which you've dealt with, etc., etc., and I think that's now all. I think that's all answered as well as you can. They're all, the fact that an objectors are outstanding doesn't mean that they've been registered. As long as the MNO knows about them, it's up to them to decide whether they're going to take them forward or not. You've done, in inverted commas, your bit, as I see it.
Right. Okay, that's lovely. Thank you, David. So, any other comments on the Get Well plan from any members? So, factual information as to how we're moving forward. That moves us to item 6B, which is the Harbour Master's report, which I guess is down to you again, Jonathan.
Sorry, I think David was trying to make a comment.
Oh,
on the
sorry.
Last bit.
Okay, sorry, David. Can't hear you.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, sorry, I'm being a good boy and going to mute as soon as I finish talking. Which is very unlike me, as you know. I'm just going to say, I think we may have to add some lines into the Get Well plan about getting Rye and Ventnor more, getting them into the SMS, etc., etc. So once you've decided they've been saying, I think we need to add lines, a few lines, getting them into the SMS, getting the emergency plan to go across them, and all those things. And and clearly we're deciding whether we remain your DP. We've all of which is in abeyance, because I know that you may be. There are things afoot about how you're going to deal with Ride and Ventnor in the future. But if it remains with the council, I suggest we then add some suitable lines to reflect what we need to get in place for those additional 2 harbours.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. That's accepted. You're quite right. We are still discussing now with Ventnor Town Council as well as Ride Town Council a potential transfer of those 2 harbours. But of course, nothing really has happened for the last 3 months for obvious reasons. But yes, you're quite right. If this is going to go on for many more months, and I suspect it will, then obviously we will need to make sure that our ducks are in a row before any transfer happens. Clearly, from the Isle of Wight Council's point of view, we do not want to be accused of not giving them the fullest information on any potential transfer. But that, I think, is going to be some weeks away yet.
They may require some, if they were wise, they may require like some sort of baseline audit, so they know what they're taking over.
Yes,
if I was doing commercial ports, when part of the governance transfer would be a baseline audit, so people can see where they were at.
Yes.
Take
Yeah.
what is basically what skeletons are in the cupboard.
Yeah. I did actually recommend to Ryde Town Council many months ago that they approached you to do that. For some reason, I don't think they ever did. So, but they've had the opportunity and the contact. We haven't quite got that far with Ventnor yet because they suddenly popped up out of the woodwork almost. And they're asking for all kinds of things, as well as if they take on the Ventnor Haven, they want us to give them some car parks and possibly the Ventnor park as well. so we're looking very hard at that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much for recommending us to, or me to them, because in one thing is a business thing, but two would be there's the sense of having the same person and knowing how the joins work would, I think, would be useful for them and for you.
I thought so, but Ryde Town Council are well, it's up to them what they do.
Yeah,
okay, so thank you for that. I think that's covered the Get Well plan. So I will move now, if members are happy, to 6B, which is the Senior Harbour Master's report. I think that brings you in, Jonathan.
Yeah, we'll quickly go through the first one from December to February. Sort of been reasonably busy. The main one was the Folly visitors berthing supervisor contracts were advertised, and that sort of processed very well. The wall by bargemans, we've managed to remove the boats that were moored there. One of them that was looking particularly, how can I say, scenic, got lifted and got taken away in a skip.
Is scenic spelt derelict?
Probably the way I spell it. It could be spelled almost anything. Yeah. The other abandoned boats and pontoons and other things that had been acquired through the last year all went up to one of the council depots, and they've now all been removed in this period. It was mentioned in the Get Well plan, but the additional information of the safety management systems being put on the website, that was done in January. And the other one was that the harbour staff had managed to power wash all of the pontoons, all of the Folly pontoons, and that was done sort of by mid-February, ready for the season, which got slightly delayed in opening. But other than that, it's all sort of seems to be sort of nothing major going wrong, and sort of moving through all the jobs that were required at that sort of time. Is it easier to do sort of comments on that now, or shall I do the other one as well and then do comments on all?
Well,
if there are any.
I'd be happy to, while we're looking at those papers, I'd be happy to take comments so far on that. I've only got one comment, but I'll leave other members to offer comment if they wish. Anyone got any points they want to make on that report, or any questions of Jonathan? No? Okay, we're happy. The only question I had, Jonathan, was on the item where you're talking about harbour launch vehicle and other tools. And in the item on other tools, it does mention it had concerns from harbour staff, or one of them, that he shouldn't be operating the hand crane as he was in his 50s. Well, speaking as someone in their 70s, I don't have a huge amount of sympathy with that, but has that been resolved?
It was something, it was sort of later on, and then we've had sort of the lockdown, so it hasn't been resolved, but it's something we're being looked into. One of the harbour staff are quite happy operating it, but but it will be something that we'll need to have a look at, as whether we're reopening it. It has been downgraded, the weight that they're using. It used to be sort of 7 tons originally. It's now down to a 3-ton operating limit. So once he's back in, we'll sort of talk to him, because at one point he did have slight injuries to his shoulders, which I think was making it a bit more difficult. But I think it's something we may need to have a look at, whether we still offer that service, because it doesn't produce an income as such for the harbour. It's more of a service for our smaller boats.
Let us know when that is finally resolved. Okay, thanks for that. So do we want to then move to the next section, which is paper F, which is you again, Jonathan?
Yeah. So the main thing in this period from the 1st of March to the 30th of May was we requested the harbour staff, and this is at all 2 harbours that are staffed, for them not to come into the offices from the 25th of March at the beginning of the lockdown. It was felt that having them on site wasn't beneficial and put them at risk, and that's still the case at the moment. They have been carrying out other services and other jobs for the council, so they've been used, but they haven't been at the harbour, which is sort of the main one. And we've also issued numerous statements regarding the virus and what we're doing to try and keep everyone informed. They've been put on the website. I've been fly posting all of the harbours with them as well, and we have sent them out to our berth holders that we had in emails for. And also I've rung up all of the houseboat berths, so then they're well informed, and make sure that they can still get their post, electric cards, and sort of try and keep them in the loop how they can still operate and use their boats without being without the offices being locked, interfering with their sort of needs. Also, at the same time, we have locked down all of the showers and the hospitality suites, because as we have no visitors, we have no need for them as such, and also trying to clean them and keep them a safe environment to be used was difficult, to say the least. So we felt that the easiest way was to close them. With the renewal of the boats from April, so all the berths, they were sent their renewal letters early on in March, and a lot of them have already paid, and we have been continually collecting their money, and we've managed to now set up a system that we can actually take payments over the phone, which is great. And the only other one is they've managed to bend the marker on the slipway as always, but we've put a temporary buoy out on that. And the only other one was that we had one of the boats on the Folly mooring had sunk. It has been one that we've been trying to encourage the owner to renovate or to remove due to its condition. We did get it recovered by the use of Folly Ventures, and I have sent the information and the invoice to the owner, so we're hoping that that will be sorted soon.
Right. So if we have a boat that's in such a bad condition, are we able simply not to renew the lease and require it to be removed?
We said we weren't going to renew it. He met with me, reassured me that he'd fitted pumps, solar cells, and guaranteed it wouldn't sink again.
Right. Okay.
Sadly, that wasn't the case. But we managed on a low tide to just put a salvage pump in it, a couple of oil absorbent pillows just in case there was anything in the bilge, and we got it back up 2 days later. I haven't heard from the owner since, so we'll chase him.
Okay.
But last time I spoke to him, he was in Spain.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that, Jonathan. A difficult one. It's not going to go away easily. Any other points on that report, or I'll go to members to ask if they've got any questions for you.
They're sort of the main ones. I mean, people may please if there's anything else.
Okay. Do members have any specific questions on that report for Jonathan? I can't actually see hands or anything, so you'll have to shout. No, okay, not detecting it. In which case, thank you, Jonathan. We will comprehensive report, and the committee will receive it and note it. Which brings us on to item C of reports, and I think this is now for you, Alex, the oral update on the Harbour revision order.
Yeah, thank you, Stuart. Yeah, normally I think I've been reporting back for the last few meetings that we're still with the MMO and hadn't heard a great deal from them. I'm pleased to be able to say that we have been putting them under a considerable amount of pressure and meeting them on a very regular basis. We've got a further meeting on Thursday, and they have started to engage with us as to what they need to conclude this Harbour revision order. So if I go through some of the things that they've asked of us and let you know what we've actually done.
Right.
The first was they asked us, and this is something relatively new, which wouldn't have been asked for us at the beginning of the process, but because this has dragged on so long, they insisted on us completing a justice impact assessment. I won't go into huge details of what that is, but just to suffice to say that we have completed that, and we have run that past our own legal team and Andrew Hignett, our marine lawyer, and they've agreed all of that, and that is lodged with the MMO as we speak.
Right.
We've redrafted various different sections of the HRO in terms of the wording and the details which they've asked for. None have been particularly controversial. One was needed to be altered because we'd had an objection which we'd heard about from the MMO, from the department, from the DFT, and that was really just around our ability to repel bylaws. And we have changed the wording to satisfy the DFT, and as I understand it, they have removed their objection, so that is complete. We were asked to produce a set of illustrative plans to put on the council's website that showed the Harbour estate, so the land and the buildings that were defined in the cabinet paper back in 2012. That has been completed and is actually on the website as we speak. And we lastly were asked to submit some amended wording around the definition of harbour premises in the HRO, which we've done. So all of those actions were everything they'd asked us to do. They also asked us to consider dealing with some further objections that we had. We dealt with all the original objections that they sent to us, and we met each, or offered a meeting to each individual person that objected, and also provided them with a written answer to their objection, which we forwarded on to them. Unfortunately, the MMO didn't actually send us all the objections that they had. So we heard about a further, I think it was 3 or 4, Sean, wasn't it? 4? I think it was 4.
No, it was 5.
Was it 5? I was close.
So received one deadline.
I mean, somewhat inefficient on their behalf to not actually send us the full list, but we have spoken to all of those people concerned and let the MMO know that we've done that.
Yeah.
Hot off the press, and we're going to be discussing on Thursday, tomorrow, with them. And Joe's been working in legal on this for us. They have actually passed all of the HRO, our draft HRO, over to their lawyers, which is encouraging. It means we're getting towards the end of the process, I think. Yeah. And their lawyers have come back with a whole host of, I would suggest, unless Joe tells me otherwise, relatively minor comments and legal points that we're going to be running through with them on Thursday. Is that true assessment, Joe?
Yeah, I think that's a fair reflection of the situation. Yeah, there's nothing too major there. Just some things we might want to try and resist. So.
Okay.
But I think for members, it was a verbal update. I think probably we'll need to provide you with a written update, probably at the next meeting. I hope by that time we've been able to conclude this matter, really. I think what is encouraging is they're moving. They're asking us for information. They're sending things through to their lawyers. It feels like we're getting there. I mean, we haven't had this for almost since the outset. So I think that's very encouraging. I'm not too sure that we haven't had any kind of deadline off of them. But, you know, I would like to think we can get this resolved relatively quickly. Chris Ashton has been involved with this as well.
Yeah.
Because obviously he's keen to conclude this with regards to the regeneration works.
Yeah.
And he's been instrumental in pushing this on at the various different meetings with the MMO. Okay. I don't know if anybody's got any questions on that at all.
I've got no questions, Alex. I'm glad to see that we're getting some movement after many months, and at least we are now getting responses from the MMO, whereas often I thought that some of the things we were passing to them were disappearing into a black hole. So it's encouraging they've got some. I do have a question for Joe, which is, obviously you've seen the objections to what we are proposing. Were they all similar objections, but from different people?
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair thing to say about it. But I think they've also all been dealt with now, one way or another. So then I think there might be a couple of things incorporated in the HRO itself, but it's something we can we'll look forward rather than look back on now. So that's which is encouraging from my perspective.
Good, thank you for that. Any comments from members or other officers on that? It's an encouraging update, I think, Alex, and we look forward to the final bits of progress over the coming weeks. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Jim.
That would bring us on to the short report with a very substantial reference in it, which is the Harbour regeneration plan itself. And I'm very aware that many officers who would have been working on that plan have had to be taken off onto other duties, including Chris Ashman himself. I don't know whether Chris is with us, Mari or Sarah. I can't see him. No.
No, Chris hasn't joined us.
No. Okay, well, that's fine. He's given us a report on that. It really is a straightforward factual issue. And I think if people need to learn more about where we've got to, the reference in that paper is a useful one to consult. But I think from our point of view, all we need to do as a Harbour committee is to note and endorse the development plan itself. We have had various presentations in the past. Many of us will have attended the presentations from our consultants who've done a really good job of keeping people posted as to the changes that we are looking for. So I look for any comments from members. I mean, welcome, Matthew. And does anyone have any points to raise on that regeneration plan itself? Being pretty comprehensive. Shirley, yes, and Matt. Take Shirley first and Matt second. Shirley, you're muted, Shirley. You're still muted. You need to touch the screen.
Press on me.
Yay!
Is that better?
That's
Right.
it. Yeah.
No, the only thing, and my apologies, I read the report some time ago. I kind of, well, I don't know whether hand on heart I can actually say it, but yes, I've skimmed it again. But I really would like at some stage, you're talking about a short report from Mr. Ashman. I haven't seen that.
It's there is a it's paper G is the one that's being referred to.
Oh yes, sorry. I have seen that. Obviously, I think at some stage it would be rather nice to have Mr. Ashman so that we can ask him questions on it. And whilst it does, it is a large testament. It does seem to alter, vary, etc., etc. And I think at some stage it would be rather nice to have an update on it, or if we could have perhaps a joint meeting with the other Harbour committee, and perhaps we could ask general questions.
Yeah, we're happy to set that up. My guess is that until people come back onto what I call their day jobs.
Oh yes, I realise that.
It's going to take some time, so I can't see us being able to do that before probably late autumn. But of course the regeneration on Newport Harbour is something which we all knew was going to take not just months but several years to get it right. We only really get one go at it, but yeah, that's noted. Thank you, Shirley.
Oh, I agree. The first council committee that I actually sat on, right back on the 80s on Medina Borough, guess what we were discussing at the Public Works Committee?
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a long one. Okay, then. Matthew.
Thank you, Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I've been here from the start of the meeting, but you couldn't see me, so I've had to borrow my daughter's laptop to log in. So she can no longer do her work at home for school today. So apologies for that. Just with regards to the Harbour Regeneration Master Plan, two questions, which will lead into whether I even talk about the second one. Really, is the master plan still going to Cabinet for adoption in August?
I don't. As far as I know, it's not on the August agenda, but we haven't actually finalised it yet. So we will need to talk to officers about that.
Okay, because my understanding was that it was going to July and then it was put back till August.
August, yeah.
I've had an issue with the master plan from the start. Can I speak at this moment about that, first of all?
Yeah, please do.
It goes more into the regeneration issues rather than the harbour, because I have no issue with the master plan relating to the harbour itself. It's just as the local member for Newport North, obviously Seaclose Park and the east side of the harbour is in my ward. The proposed housing for Seaclose Park is the bit that still remains in the master plan, and is something that I've lobbied the builder of the master plan and the regen team to reconsider. But that appears to still be in there. And my concern is, as the local member, is that is an absolute destruction of Seaclose Park. And that the ideas that I had around those ideas don't seem to have been taken into account in any form of the master plan, and certainly not the version that we would be looking at today if Chris Ashman was with us. So I just want to put that on record. It's not really for this committee, I understand that, because the rest of the master plan itself, in regards to the harbour, I'm pretty okay with. It's just the bit which is included in the harbour master plan, but relates specifically to the front of Seaclose Park where it joins to Fairley Road.
Right, okay. I think all we can do from this committee's point of view, Matthew, is to note your concerns about elements of the regeneration plan, and to say that you know, we will make sure that Chris Ashman is aware of them, as I'm sure you have, and then obviously until the plan is formally adopted, there will be further considerations about range of aspects, not least the fact that we are in a different economic zone now than we were 3 months ago. So thanks for those comments.
My apologies, Chair. My apologies, Chair. I've just joined the meeting. My apologies, Chris.
Oh,
I'm
hello,
sorry I'm
hello,
late.
Chris. All I was... Sorry.
Can I come in here?
John, yes.
Matthew
Sorry,
did
John.
mention this coming before the master plan, coming before the full council on the 6th of August. I gather it is coming before scrutiny on the 2nd of July. So
Okay.
it will be able to be discussed there. Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Hello, Chris, welcome. We were just listening to Matthew's concerns about some aspects of the regeneration plan as it affects particularly housing on a part of the site at Sea Close. I'm sure that the two of you will be able to have informal conversations, and obviously that will need to be addressed in the final document. We've got your short update, Chris, and we have got the reference through on it to the policy and the planning documents. Is there anything you want to raise with the committee about the developments here?
Thank you, Chair. I'm obviously arriving late, and I don't want to disrupt the committee's business any more than I probably already have done. I did have a presentation to share with you, which gave some feedback on the latest round of consultation on the strategic planning document itself and the supplementary planning document that Councillor Hobart's just referred that we're planning to table at Cabinet in August. The presentation really gave an overview of the main feedback, which was around retaining the character of the harbour in any proposals, and ensuring that obviously the design aesthetics would be carefully considered. The other main concern was around flood risk in the master plan, and the mix of developments accommodating that. Those were raised by individual applicant comments. We suddenly in a region of 46 responses to the SPD consultation, and the character issue was by far and away the largest. But the second was the flood risk concerns, and one of the statutory consultees for the supplementary planning document, the Environment Agency, really asked for a lot more work, particularly on certain aspects of the harbour side projects that we'd put in the master plan. A lot more flood modelling work to be undertaken if they weren't to object to the supplementary planning document. So I wanted to take the committee through the fly through again, and take you through again the chronology of the extensive consultation that we've undertaken with different stakeholders over a period of 2 years to bring forward the supplementary planning document. I did pick up on Councillor Price's comments as I joined the call, and clearly, in terms of the mix of housing across the site, we actually revised the proposal for Sea Close Park at least on 2 occasions based upon community feedback around access to green space, around protecting the allotments in the harbour area. But what we were able and challenged to do was obviously deliver a viable master plan that gave the necessary housing outputs that our housing needs strategy clearly tells us is required in the Newport area. So the mix between affordable and private rental properties that make the overall harbour scheme viable and deliverable has been very, very carefully considered. And so the use of that area of Fairley Road that comes into Sea Close Park was clearly a challenge in terms of the the loss of green space again, informal green space, and we're obviously anxious to work with local members to ensure the mitigation of that is managed as carefully and considered as possible, possibly looking at other areas on the Fairley Road. So Councillor Price is aware of our commitment to that, but clearly in terms of both the design and implementation of the C-close element of the housing scheme, we'd be very carefully considering when partnerships come forward to develop that project, how it's meeting a local need and how the design and the aesthetics of that particular element of the scheme can reassure and involve local people. So that was a very quick run through of probably a 15-minute presentation, Chair. But clearly just wanted for the Harbour Board's attention in particular to be reminded of the urgent need for us to bring forward the regeneration programme in the harbour to help us ensure that we keep that harbour working as a harbour, because the board is obviously cited better than anybody else on what the maintenance challenges and the income challenges are, and those have become even more acute because of our overall financial position as a council. So the need for the regeneration project in the harbour to create the revenue to be able for us to sustain the harbour has actually become even more urgent and more imperative, given that the only other sources available to address that maintenance agenda are rapidly becoming more difficult by the day. So from that perspective, the strategy is one for the benefit of the harbour and the benefit of Newport as a community as a whole, and to make the harbour much better as a space and a quality environment for communities. And I hope, without going through the overview presentation, I hope that the board has felt that we've struck the right balance between ambition and pragmatism in terms of the scheme that will give us the returns that we do need to support the board in its objectives, the Harbour Board's objectives, in making sure that the harbour sustains its current operations. I'll stop there, Chair.
Okay. Thank you for that, Chris. You mentioned that it was going to be reviewed at scrutiny in July, did you say?
Yeah, the Policy and Scrutiny Committee for Neighbourhoods and Regeneration have requested obviously the results of the consultation, and obviously I'm expecting the members of that committee to add some further value into the master plan process.
Okay, thank you for that. So obviously any members that want to have the update on that will be able to sit in on that committee and get the benefit of the progress that's been made over the last few weeks and months. Any comments on Chris's admittedly rapid update on that, or are you content to wait for the full presentation, which will go to scrutiny?
I will share the presentation with the board, if that's okay, offline, Chair.
Yeah, I'd be very happy with that. Matthew?
Yeah.
Sorry, you're on.
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to come back again about Seaclose Park, and I totally have supported the harbour regeneration principle, but as soon as Seaclose Park was brought into the fold as part of the regeneration plan, I don't think it is fair to even suggest that building on Seaclose Park is going to benefit Newport and its residents and the wider community, because it isn't. What that might bring into in finances to support the harbour in the future, it sort of flies in the face of what Chris has just said. Now, I've tried to work with the harbour regeneration programme throughout, but I've made it clear throughout the process that I'm representing Newport North, and I'm representing the residents myself, who are coming to me with the issues and the concerns and their objections to building on Seaclose Park. I cannot get away from feeling that it is very, very unfair to consider allocating part of Seaclose Park for building as any part of support for the harbour in the future. And that's what how it sounds like it's being sort of looked at. Now, I understand it's about the overall finances, and I know we're in a different time to ever before. But on the back of that, perhaps the Isle of Wight Festival is now even more important than ever. And clearly building on Seaclose Park at any point is going to affect the Isle of Wight Festival. I've been to the presentations that say it's not, but you know, I've been the local member for getting on for 8 years now. I've lived in the area my whole life. I think I'm well equipped to understand what is and isn't going to affect the festival. And I still feel that building on Seaclose Park shouldn't be considered to be a benefit to the harbour. And it should be looked at in a much more from a much wider view as to how it will affect Newport, how it will affect the aesthetics of the biggest park in Newport, and how it won't benefit the local people.
Okay.
Thanks for letting me speak again.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chair. I don't want to prolong the conversation, but can I, and I'll speak to Councillor Price offline, but can I just clarify the proposals that I was planning to take everyone through again that are set out in the master plan actually propose housing development at the entrance to Seaclose Park at the Fairley Road entrance. It doesn't involve actually building on the park itself. Can I just confirm that that's what the council is concerned about?
No, I know exactly where it is, Chris, but it includes the site known as a fuel station, but that is all within the boundary of Seaclose Park. I understand it's not recreational land as such, but it has a wider impact on the recreational land. That's the tennis courts, the bowling green, the children's playground. It doesn't build over it, but it builds right up to it. It changes everything, and I can't be more clear about that. But I'm happy to speak with the outside of this committee, of course, because I understand this isn't a harbour disagreement. So
yeah, okay. Thank you for that, Matthew. I think you're quite right. So you and Chris and perhaps other members of Newport and Carisbrooke Community Council to express their concerns, and we'll let you do that outside this committee. I see Shirley looking to come in. Shirley, you're on mute. Okay.
That better.
That's
right.
Better.
Only to say, and I haven't even discussed this with a former member, but I agree 100% as what he is saying. It is such a crucial development, and that is why my concern earlier, and then now I gather we're going to have this presentation of not having been completely up to date for obvious reasons recently. And so therefore I just agree. The thought of doing what I gather is in the plan from Matthew. Well, I, for one, am absolutely appalled. And I have actually lived on this island much longer than he has. Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley. Can I suggest then, Chris, that in the conversations to set members' minds at rest on this, that you also include Shirley in that discussion. Right. Any other comments from members on this issue? No. Okay, thank you for that. The final item on the agenda is members' question time. I don't know whether we have Marie or Sarah, whichever.
I'm not aware of any questions, Chairman.
You're not aware of it. Okay, well, that's good. So subject to any other comments from members present or indeed officers, I'm looking around to see if anyone's waving or shouting or
David.
I think David's on his way. Was that a farewell wave, David, or
yes, or a drowning man's wave. Just a couple of things, Chairman. I think we ought to you ought to have your eye on at present. I think the Vesta and their proposed bringing in larger vessels and the development there, it doesn't sort of get swept up in this, in what we've been talking about today, and I think that's quite something we're going to have to keep our eye on quite well. And the other one is, I suppose, is just it's the staff issue. We still haven't got a proper harbour master for Newport Harbour, and it's been vacant for, well, actually vacant almost for 3 years by the time you take illness and all the rest into it. And that was one of the root causes that the MCA identified about problems. And I'm not sure whether that sort of got, again, it's got stuck in pending trade 2 over the COVID business. And I think really you've now approved the new manning thing, and I rather suspect the new manning schedule, and I rather suspect that I would suggest that you ought to be looking at that and maybe taking that forward now.
Okay, thank you for that comment, David.
And the last one, I'm going to congratulate them all on with all the COVID and things, and the change of directives from the government, from different departments and things. I think kept abreast of that rather well and got the information out well. And I think we're all now waiting for another great splodge of new directives coming out in the next couple of days about recreational boating, which I rather suspect will mean that recreational boating people will be allowed to stay on board overnight. Therefore, you're going to get many more, hopefully you'll get many more visitors, and maybe you should be thinking of redirecting your manual labourers back to the harbour to get the money out of them.
Yeah, okay, yeah, thanks for those comments. I mean, I can see officers nodding. That's obviously an administrative issue for our officers rather than a policy issue.
Oh, no, definitely not a policy, but I think it's just things as a board you ought to be you'll be thinking about.
I think they've taken that on board. I see enthusiastic nods.
They hate me.
Okay.
We can deal with both of those things, Stuart.
Lovely, thank you. Any other comments from anyone about issues? If not, I'm looking around. No, can't see any signs. So thank you for your attendance, and I will declare the meeting closed. And thank you to our officers for keeping going in these difficult times.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Over and out. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.
Cheers.